Fact-checking budget claims by Jamaica's opposition leader and finance minister. I'm Kalila Reynolds, founder of Money Media. We produce financial news and education that's easy to understand. So opposition leader Mark Golding recently made his contribution to the budget debate. He rebutted several things said by the finance minister, Dr. Nigel Clarke. Here's my take on 5 of those points. Number 1, Golding's position on the $20K reverse tax credit. Clarke announced recently that the government would be giving 20,000 Jamaican dollars cash to all taxpayers who earn less than 3 million JMD a year, as long as all your 2023 taxes are paid up. But Golding said it
smells like a $20,000 giveaway for political advantage as we get ever closer to the next general election.
The next election is due by 2025, but the government could call it at any time, even this year. Additionally, Golding said that it's not fair to only give it to people whose taxes are paid up, because what if your employer hasn't paid over your taxes?
Is this fair? How is it fair to an employee to deny him or her this little benefit in the event that the employer is not compliant with statutory filings and payments of deductions?
I'd say this is a fair point and something Minister Clarke should consider. But then again, Golding also indicated that maybe nobody should get the $20K at all, which brings me to point number 2. Golding said the money for the reverse tax credit should instead be used to raise the income tax threshold to $2 million. This would give people who pay income tax $10,000 back in their pocket every month. The threshold is being raised to $1.7 million, which is only about $4,000 a month less in taxes.
That $4,166 can't even buy a bucket of KFC.
Now we checked, and he's right. KFC's smallest bucket is a Family 9, which costs $4,900. That's about $32 for my viewers outside Jamaica. However, if we put all the money into raising the income tax threshold, then people who are currently below the threshold and don't pay income tax wouldn't benefit at all. Now, speaking of taxes, here's point number 3. According to Mark,
since this JLP government came to office, they have more than doubled the annual tax take from every man, woman, and child in Jamaica.
But Nigel said
that this is the 7th consecutive year in which the government has introduced no new taxes.
So who's right? We actually went over this last year because the same claim was made last year. This is the table that Mark Golding showed in Parliament. Yes, it shows that tax collections have gone up from $411 billion in 2015-16 to $924 billion in 2023-24. That's more than double. But that same chart also shows that GDP has just about doubled as well. In 2015-16, Jamaica earned 1.6 trillion JMD, and in 2023-24, the country earned 3.2 trillion. So duh! If your economy grew, tax collections are gonna grow too. More businesses are paying taxes, that's more GCT, more corporate income tax. All collections will go up. But Golding also made the point that tax as a percentage of GDP also went up from 24% to 28%. This too can be explained by the growth in the economy and the fact that unemployment is down. According to the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, unemployment in 2016 was over 10%. It's now down to just over 4%. More people are working, which means more people are paying taxes. And I think it's actually a good thing that the government has been able to double its tax collection without raising tax rates or introducing any new taxes. Now, point number 4 is about how the government plans to pay for everything. All these givebacks are going to cost about $25 billion. Nigel said that they're paying for it by selling receivables, which is money owed to the government. Presumably, somebody's agreed to pay the government up front and then collect receivables later for a cut, of course, but no details were given.
When I asked him about this after his speech, his response to me was, the information is market sensitive. Mr. Speaker, this is totally unacceptable.
Now, I agree with him here. The public should know the details of this arrangement, especially since an election may be near, which is something Mark is obviously concerned about.
This means that a future government will not have access to those sources of revenue because they will have been sold now.
My last major point from Golding is also about taxes, the GCT being removed from imported raw foodstuffs. By the way, we finally found out what raw foodstuffs actually means. The GCT Act defines it as fresh fruit and vegetables, ground provisions, legumes, onions and garlic, meat, poultry, and fish. Nigel said we have to take the GCT off these imported foods or else
We will be blacklisted for this differential, blacklisted by the WTO in this case.
But according to Mark,
Well, based on our research, the WTO does not blacklist or unilaterally punish member states for non-compliance.
so we checked the WTO's website and we couldn't find any blacklist. So I guess Mark is right on this one. Technically speaking, it's not a blacklist, but we did find the rule that Nigel was referring to. It's the WTO's General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, and it's right here in Article 3. Internal taxes, blah, 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 should not be applied to imported or domestic products so as to afford protection to domestic production. Note that it doesn't specifically say GCT isn't allowed, which Nigel suggested. It seems to indicate that there should be no internal taxes at all for the purpose of protecting domestic production, which would mean that this suggestion from Mark would also be a no-go.
Replace the GCT on import foodstuff with a stamp duty on imported foodstuffs to level the playing field between imported and locally produced food.
However, the opposition leader also had some other suggestions to help out local farmers. These include removing GCT from farm supplies such as seeds, farm tools and equipment, and also from local products like eggs. So, what do you think? Who won this debate? Should everyone get the 20K giveaway, or should we put it towards raising the income tax threshold instead? Should the government disclose details on the receivables deal? And also, what should we do about GCT? Let me know in the comments. Now, we still have a couple more speeches to go in the budget debates. Next up, we're covering Prime Minister Andrew Holness, as well as the Finance Minister's closing presentation. Subscribe to my newsletter to get money news like this straight to your inbox. Click the link up here or in the description below. Let's get this money.
Let's get this money.